6 Star Trek characters from Kirk's past that Strange New Worlds must still introduce. When Star Trek Strange New Worlds first announced that it would reintroduce a young James T. Kirk, some fans wondered if the series might simply retread ground we've already seen. Instead, the show has used Kirk sparingly, with just enough appearances to build his reputation while allowing Captain Pike to remain the star. But by doing so, Strange New Worlds has also set up a tantalizing opportunity. Glimpses into Kirk's past that the original series only ever hinted at. The young Starfleet officer, who would become the most famous captain in Federation history, had a life full of rivals, mentors, and lost loves before the USS Enterprise. Some of those people have never appeared on screen until now. Here are 6 characters from Kirk's past that Strange New Worlds must still introduce to truly complete his origin story. 1. Gary Mitchell, Kirk's first great friendship. Before the tragic events of Where No Man Has Gone Before, Gary Mitchell was Kirk's closest friend, serving alongside him on multiple assignments. In TOS, Mitchell's transformation into a godlike being and subsequent death provided one of the franchise's earliest morality tales. But the show never dramatized his pre-Enterprise adventures with Kirk. Strange New Worlds could finally fill the gap. Seeing a young Mitchell and Kirk bond over academy pranks or dangerous away missions would deepen the later tragedy when Mitchell's powers emerge. The show excels at giving classic characters emotional shading, and Gary Mitchell's introduction could become the series' most poignant how they met story yet. 2. Dr. Carol Marcus, the one that got away. Kirk's complicated history with Carol Marcus looms large over Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Their son, David, becomes a symbol of the life Kirk might have had if he'd chosen family over duty. But the original series never depicted their romance. It was only ever backstory. With Strange New Worlds' careful attention to continuity and character arcs, introducing a young Carol Marcus, perhaps as a brilliant Federation scientist working on an ethically questionable project, would be a perfect way to hint at their future. The series could plant the seeds of their relationship while also showing how Kirk's pattern of prioritizing the mission over personal ties began long before he took command of the Enterprise. 3. Ben Finney, the rival who tried to ruin him. In Court Martial, we learned that Kirk once left Lieutenant Ben Finney in a compromised position during an ion storm, a decision that haunted both men. Finney faked his own death to frame Kirk, suggesting a bitter professional rivalry that had been simmering for years. Yet audiences never saw how that animosity developed. Strange New Worlds could explore their early tension while both men are still climbing the Starfleet ladder. Imagine Kirk as a promising young officer whose fast promotions rubbed the more senior Finney the wrong way. A well-crafted subplot could depict how Starfleet's competitive culture sometimes breeds resentment, setting the stage for one of TOS's most memorable courtroom dramas. 4. Thomas Layton, the witness of Kodo's massacre. Kirk's backstory includes one of the most harrowing events in Federation history, the massacre on Tarsus 4 by Governor Kodos the Executioner. Thomas Layton, a fellow survivor, appears in The Conscience of the King as the man who recognizes Kodos years later. In that episode, Kirk is already captain, but the trauma clearly shaped him. A younger Layton in Strange New Worlds could serve as a reminder of the shared trauma both men endured and how it informed their past. Perhaps an episode could flash back to Starfleet's investigation of Kodos, showing how Kirk and Layton handled survivors' guilt differently, one bearing it in duty, the other in obsession. 5. Janet Wallace, a Starfleet romance gone cold. One of TOS's subtle glimpses into Kirk's past comes from The Deadly Years, which introduces Dr. Janet Wallace, a Starfleet scientist with whom Kirk once had a serious relationship. She represents another facet of Kirk's personal sacrifices, the relationships that withered because of his career. By introducing Wallace earlier in her career, Strange New Worlds could craft an arc where she and Kirk work together on a mission with high stakes, only to realize that his relentless ambition makes him a difficult partner. It would provide a different, more grounded counterpoint to the operatic tragedy of Carol Marcus and David, showing the quieter heartbreaks that defined Kirk's early life. 6. Finnegan, the Academy bully turned comedy relief. Not every figure from Kirk's past has to be dramatic. Finnegan, Kirk's notorious tormentor at Starfleet Academy first glimpsed in Shore Leave, is a golden opportunity for Strange New Worlds to inject levity while building character. Bringing Finnegan into live action as a recurring foil could show a more human, even vulnerable side of Kirk, a young cadet who had to grit his teeth through pranks and hazing while still excelling academically. It could also underscore one of Kirk's defining traits, his ability to turn past adversity into leadership strength. The bigger picture, building Kirk without stealing the spotlight. One of the reasons Strange New Worlds has resonated with audiences is its depth balancing act. It celebrates classic,